Israel has carried out airstrikes in the Gaza Strip after rockets were fired from the Palestinian-controlled territory. The Israeli military said it shot down 5 of the devices. The other landed in a field. The rocket attacks came after a deadly Israeli raid in the occupied West Bank on Wednesday. 11 Palestinians were killed in Nablus. Our Middle East correspondent Tom Bateman reports.
Another day of death and bloodshed in Nablus. The worst this city has seen since the depths of this conflict 2 decades ago. It started with Israeli undercover forces seen here entering the city in disguise. Then more raided. It was mid-morning, into streets packed with people, sparking gunfights with Palestinian militants. Troops opened fire and blew up a building in the old city. I was woken by an explosion and saw special forces with dogs, troops connecting wires, which I assume were for explosives, says Khalil Shaheen, who lives nearby. The destructive force of an Israeli rocket fired at a Palestinian house. Israel says its troops killed 3 militants of the Lion's Den group who refused to surrender. It wanted them over the killing of a soldier last year and for planning new attacks. But as paramedics struggled to move, more people were killed outside, gunmen and civilians, including a 72-year-old man. While others, apparently unarmed, were seen running away as gunshots were heard. Palestinian officials called it a massacre. In the hospitals, the wounded and their relatives pour in. 15-year-old Islam says he threw stones towards the soldiers. He got a bullet in the leg. His grandfather, Jafar Abu Aishi, tells me young and old were hit. They came in with so much rage, so much hatred against the Palestinian people. It's the first time I've known it like that since 2004, he says. Well, we're seeing more and more relatives arrive here, and on this ward alone, they are treating people in every room now with bullet wounds. One doctor I spoke to said this is one of the worst events of its kind he's seen recently. He called it a disaster. Thousands turned out for another day of funerals. The raid in Nablus is now the deadliest in the occupied West Bank in nearly 2 decades. Israel says it's been trying to stem the rise in Palestinian attacks on its streets. The northern West Bank's become home to growing militancy, with the official Palestinian leadership losing control here. Now the militant group Islamic Jihad is threatening retaliation. The scale of bloodshed shows recent international efforts to restore calm are failing. Tom Bateman, BBC News, Nablus.
Well, let's go to Gaza now and speak to our correspondent there, Rushdie Abu Alouf. Rushdie, Tom's report there describing what happened in the West Bank. Bring us up to date, if you will, on what's happened in Gaza over the last few hours.
Yeah, I think what happened in Gaza is also related to the deadliest attack in the West Bank. As the militants group Hamas yesterday, military wing spokesman for the first time since the war in 2021, threatened to retaliate for the attack in Nablus. They said, our patient is running out. This morning at 4 o'clock in the morning local time, militants have fired 6 rockets from Gaza into southern Israel. 5 of them were intercepted and 1 was landed in open field. No group yet claimed responsibility about firing those rockets, but also Islamic Jihad, the second biggest militants group, said they have lost one of their big leaders yesterday in the Nablus raid. Israel hit Gaza back quickly after less than an hour. They have targeted 2 military compounds for Hamas, one in central Gaza Strip and one here in Gaza city, where about 800,000 people live. Israel said they have targeted weapon manufacturing facility and a training facility for Hamas as a response for the firing of the rockets. The Hamas spokesman, after the Israeli air raid, they said We will continue to defend our people whenever the Israelis is committing what he described as crimes in the West Bank and East Jerusalem or Jerusalem. His group and the militants group in Gaza will not stay silent.
And Rushdie, what more information is emerging about what happened in that raid in Nablus on the West Bank? There seem to have been a very large number of people injured in that. The Palestinian Health Ministry says more than 80.
Yeah, it was very busy early morning yesterday around like 10 o'clock in the morning. And the place where the Israeli raid took place is close to the city center and the main market where many shoppers and people were going to their work. And suddenly there was Israeli forces surrounding a house where 3 militants were hiding inside the house. Israel accused them of committing a killing for a soldier a few months ago, and there was clashes inside the house. More militants came from different parts of Nablus, which is a flashpoint for the last year or so, and they engaged in clashes with the Israeli army. Also, hundreds of people were throwing stones and trying to confront the large Israeli force. And this is health ministry said this number of deaths is about 60, more than 60 in the first 2 months of this year, is the biggest maybe for the last 20 years.